Guys, and welcome back to another probability lesson. In today's lesson, we're going to look at performing experiments or activities, I guess you could say, when we are replacing something within it. So what does it mean by replacement? So this involves selecting or drawing an item. Then we record the results, and then we put it back into with the other items, I guess you could say. And then we select another one. So for example, if we were looking at different coloured balls, a red ball, a green ball and a blue ball, and we draw it out once and we get a red ball, we'd record that and then we'd put that ball back with the other balls so that we could keep recording and it doesn't change the probability each time. And that's really important. When we are replacing it, we're putting it back, we're actually not changing the probability. So when we look at the next lesson, which is when we take it out and we keep it, we begin to change the probability each time. So let's look at example number 1. So a box contains equal number of blue activity cards and yellow activity cards. A card is drawn, its colour recorded and then replaced. This is repeated 2 times. So the tree diagram, which is over here, so you will have done this before. We did this with working with tree diagrams, but we're going to do some more examples. So over here is our tree diagram, and I've already filled out the outcomes and also the calculation of the probability. So for blue, 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 it would be half times half times half, which gives us 1/8, and so on, so on. So in this case, each one is 1/8 because there's an equal chance of getting either a blue or a yellow card. Okay, so let's find the probability of a couple of things, but let's start with at least 2 blues. So in this case, what we're going to do is let's highlight, circle, whatever you want to do, anything with 2 blues. So here these have at least 2 blues. So it can be more than 2 blues, but can't be less. So we have to have at least 2. So these ones here, and then this one here as well. So there's 4 there that have them. So the probability of at least 2 blues is 1/8. So the probability of that plus the probability of that plus the probability of that plus the probability of that. So 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8, which gives us 4/8. Remembering when we add fractions, the denominators have to be the same at the bottom, and then we simply add the numerators together. And if we pop that in as a decimal, or we simplify it, it should be a decimal. I'll quickly tell you. Why do I need to put it up? It's 1/2, so it's 0.5, of course. That was silly. So the probability is 0.5, which we could look at this and decide that it was because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 8. So 4 out of 8, which is another way that we can do it. But you do need to be mindful that the probability must be the same. If the probabilities for each one is different, you can't just look at how many there are and do it as an experimental probability. So exactly 1 yellow. So again, let's highlight 1 yellow, 1 yellow, and 1 yellow. Now this is exactly, which means they can't be more and they can't be less. So in this case, we have the probability of exactly 1 yellow is 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8, which gives us 3/8. And then that, as I can do this one, 3/8 is 0.375. So if I get my pen, go equals 0.3, this is hard, 7.5. So 0.375 as a decimal. So let's do another one. A lucky dip contains 5 green gift vouchers, for $50 and 15 red vouchers for $5. A gift voucher is drawn, its value recorded, and it is then replaced. So here we have 3/4 and 1/4, and the reason we have that is, well, there's 15 out of 20 chances of pulling a red one, which simplifies down to 3/4, and 5 out of 20 chances of pulling a green one, which simplifies down to 1/4. So what are the probability of a $50 voucher being selected twice? So if we go back here, a $50 voucher is green. So in this case, we're looking at green and green. So we go probability of green and green equals 1/4 times 1/4. And remember with fractions, when you are multiplying fractions, you multiply the numerator and the denominator, so we end up with 1/16. So the probability of getting two $50 vouchers is 1/16. Find the probability of getting a $50 voucher, then a $5 voucher. So we're looking for a green and then a red. So in this case, we're going 1/4 times 3/4, which gives us 3/16. And I probably should have done both of these again as decimals. So 0.188. So equals 0.188. So terrible drawing, but that's okay, we get the idea. So that's it from me, guys. Remember, if you have any questions, please make sure you ask. Otherwise, I will see you in the next lesson.